Welcome back to the Pilates Business Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here today with me and with Sara Talbert. Thank you so much for joining. Our guest today, Sara, is someone who has built a reputation around movement. You've probably seen her online. She has a fabulous digital presence. She is also a movement educator and the owner and founder of B Pilates Boutique in Colorado, the founder of ST Pilates, and more recently, Loom Movement. And she brings a really unique perspective to this podcast and the conversation I'm about to have because she sits at that intersection of teacher and mentor and educator and entrepreneur. On top of all of that, she has been in the Pilates world since 1998. And I was so fortunate to recently meet Sara face-to-face in person at the Nashville Pilates conference, which was fantastic for everyone. And I'm so excited to have you finally here with us today. And thank you so much for joining. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and chat with you.
We're going to have such a good time. Okay, so I want us to rewind a little bit back to the beginning. You know, you have had your entire career has been in this industry, which is incredible. And so I'd love for you to go back to the beginning about how you share with us a little bit about how you got started.
Sure.
And then a little bit about, you know, the journey you've taken that's kind of gotten you to where you are today with all of these incredible things that you are now focused on.
All right. Well, from the very beginning, I studied kinesiology up at CU Boulder in college. And when I graduated, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? A lot of the friends of mine were going into like PT or occupational therapy or something like that. And I thought to myself, that might be a little slow paced and maybe not boring, but just not as fast as I like to move. I also mentioned as a kid, I did gymnastics for all of elementary, and then middle school hit and I got tall and I was like, okay, this isn't going to work anymore. But there's this kind of deep love for moving and inversions and grabbing bars and pulling and all that. So that's in my history. Then let's see here. I remember reading an article about Pilates in one of my magazines, and it said it's really good for your abs. And so being young in my 20s, I'm like, well, that's good. I need abs, you know? And at that time, I was a pretty serious runner. I did my first marathon when I was 19. Wow. And I also am now an avid cyclist. So I knew I needed something to help balance out my body. I actually run on the tight side. I was never a dancer or trained that way. And so flexibility has always been something I'm after. And I always am like, if I were to like back in the day, compare myself more like, oh my gosh, I can't even do the splits and I cannot do the splits, but I still try. Right. And so anyway, I realized this is very good for my body. I do have a little scoliosis. And so learning about that too, I didn't realize I had it until later in life. And I realized it's just enough to mess with me is what I call it. You know, I don't have a very significant curve, but enough that like rolling like a ball, I'm always going off to the side or something like that. So I figured that out. But anyway, where I worked in an athletic club. And I had 3 jobs. And with my background, they let me start at the athletic club teaching Pilates, and I really knew nothing. And I had a teacher that helped me, and she just taught me the choreography and the machines. I'm like, okay, this is great. I really know I don't know what I'm doing. I knew enough to not hurt somebody with my background, but I'm like, I have no idea what this is. And so I took it upon myself to get certified. And so I sought out Peak Pilates because it's in Denver, Colorado. Mm-hmm. There's also the Pilates Center, which I would love to have done, but I was working so much, they required a lot more time up in Boulder. I should have done it maybe back when I was in college. But so I was working and I needed to do something on the weekends. And I brought Peak Pilates to our staff at Greenwood. Everyone got certified. Amazing. Yeah. And I was telling you earlier, I love to look back at this. My first rate for a Pilates private was $45. And so we had these little chits and you'd write down the rate and they would sign and all that. So looking back, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, $45, that's a good beginning. And this was back in like 1998. Right. And then, so we went through the certification. I got married, I had kids. And when my kids were little, I asked Colleen if I could become a teacher trainer because I really liked the idea and the organization of Peak Pilates, how they presented the material. And at first she was like, I don't know. And then I kept bugging her and she's like, okay, let's do it. So I went through the teacher training program and hosted quite a few trainings at Greenwood Athletic Club and still run into the people there. And it just brings me so much joy, not just to teach my clients, but teaching a teacher how to teach Pilates. That's like one of my favorite things. So that happened for many years. And I was also at that point the director of the Pilates studio, which meant I was on a management team. So I got a lot of experience about on running a budget, hiring instructors. I think at one point I had 17 instructors on board and very familiar with that whole dynamic. Ordering equipment. I built that studio up. They actually did a really nice add-on to the gym just for Pilates. So it was one of the first athletic clubs that really took Pilates seriously, which I feel so proud of, and it still goes today. And then more recently, I decided, okay, this was right before COVID. Actually, my husband is also in the fitness industry. He's a personal trainer. So he's a strength coach. And we both worked at the athletic club together. So we reached this point in our lives where we wanted to do something different. So he actually kind of jumped first. And then I'm like, well, I can't be here alone. So I jumped. And now it's a unique situation where I have a Pilates studio called B Pilates. And then neighboring it, it's like a suite. There's Viking Power Elite where you can go strength training. So we share a lot of clients. And, I remember making that jump. I went in on like a Monday. We moved the equipment. We had very few pieces. I had this little office and I just sat there thinking, is anybody going to come? Am I going to have any clients? Is this going to work? I had no idea, but I just took the risk thinking I'll just do it one thing at a time, one step at a time, trying to build this business up. And then COVID happened.
Right.
And Kelly and I have a business partner, Kelly Gilbranson, and we just texted each other. And I started actually a YouTube. Now that I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I did free classes, I think 2 days a week. I would be like beginner mat, intermediate mat, advanced mat. And I just get on my floor in this room and record those. I knew nothing about Instagram or YouTube or any of that stuff. So I just kind of figured it out through trial and error, started the Instagram account, and then developed this website, stpilates.com. And I was like, this is great. I like to write. So I would write blogs and this and that.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I think people really want to do, I've had feedback that an app would be nice. So that was my last journey, is the development of this app called Loom Movement.
Yeah. Amazing. So you've really, done it all, right? You have worked in a fitness, an athletic facility. You have taught other teachers how to teach. You have opened your own studio. You've built an online presence, a pretty significant online presence. And now, and you had the on-demand with ST Pilates, and now you have the app as well. So you have had your hands in a lot of different parts along the way, right? And today you still bridge a lot of different, you're still in all of that, right?
I'm still teaching in all of that. Yes, yeah. I'm still teaching teachers. I still have instructors at the studio that work at our studio. And I'm also still raising 3 kids. I have 2 daughters and a son, and he's still in high school. He just had his last day of sophomore year yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
And my daughter's home she just finished her freshman year in college. And then I had one that just graduated college. So I think one of the hardest parts and best parts is mixing this work life with being a parent. So,
well, I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I will come back to talking about some of the other pieces. Sure. But how did, over the course, obviously you had your children as you were building and growing your business and various parts of your business. What do you, and now, your kids are, okay, they're not gone, but they're older and probably you have the ability to sort of reflect now on what went well. And what would you say were some of the things that you learned along the way that, if you could do it again, you'd go and do again?
So being a mom and working and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reflect on that a lot. I I chose working at an athletic club because they had a kids club.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would check in on my kids between sessions. They were in like strollers and cribs. They even slept in the short thong box, but upside down. That's been a crib before. So I never felt away from my children. And I would nurse them, breastfed them in between clients. Like I remember all of these moments. And I think what I learned, there was times where I was like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't think I want to do all this. This is so much work, getting up so early and being so organized. But I look back and now I see a lot of parents having these moments of that didn't work maybe outside the home. We all know working in the home is a full-time job, but outside the home. And I feel like sometimes I'm so glad I held on to it because I do have so much more to do and so much more to give. And there's something there for me to do. So I kind of knew that in the back of my head. I'm a worker bee. And if I didn't have that, it would be probably even harder for me now. But part of the reason I developed the app too is to scale back maybe a little bit of my teaching hours. I work quite a bit. And recently I've taken Thursdays off. I don't go into the studio at all. And I'm so grateful I did that. So I have some time to work on other things and also travel to visit my kids. So one of my oldest lives in Nashville, hence you can see guitars in the back.
Yes,
she's in the singer-songwriting industry and she's staying. And so I'm thinking long-term, how do I create something for myself with more passive income, something that I'm passionate about because I really believe in what I'm doing, and then also have a brick and mortar studio where I get to see people in person. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really powerful what you just said. You are thinking ahead and you're thinking about how can I make that happen? And I think thank you for sharing that, because I believe that we do have a lot of power in ourselves to make beyond what we might see as being in front of us and design what we want to have when it comes to our business and what we want to be doing in our business. And so I think you've shown how that is very possible with what you've built and what you're building right now. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I want to switch gears now, because you have managed to conquer both the in-person studio world with clients and teaching teachers, as well as conquer the digital fitness world as well, not just once, but twice, maybe even more times over than that, because you have a really strong presence across many, many platforms, as well as building out your first and then sort of there's next version 2, perhaps with the app with Loom, in terms of having an on-demand platform. Tell us a little bit about what happens behind the scenes, because I think that oftentimes when we see platforms like what you have created, you make it look, it's so beautiful, and it looks like it's something that you can just, perhaps do on the side. And so tell us, and I know you're laughing, but tell us a little bit about what really goes into, let's maybe tell us a little bit about Loom, how you develop that, and really what goes on behind the scenes to making that really come to life.
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge is probably figuring out, I'll talk the technical end. If we're talking about Instagram, I really started as a rookie and just did trial and error. And some of the things I wanted people to like, they didn't like. And then the things that they did like, I had to pay attention to.
Right.
So for example, Fitball. The Fitball is always a popular thing that I do. So I'm thinking, well, this is what people like, let's keep doing it. And actually during COVID, I had a Fitball here and I was like, how do I do reformer on the Fitball or mat on the Fitball? And way back in the day, the Pilates Style magazine had Kevin Bowen and myself in an article with the Fitball. So that's one prop that I use. It's not traditional classical Pilates, I realize that. But I also know not everyone has this equipment. So I am thinking, how do I get anybody to get off the couch and move? Right. And have the smallest of props or have everything. So that's why I also thought, okay, is there enough people out there that have reformers at home? Because on my app, I include not just the mat. I have recorded every reformer, every chair, every Cadillac from beginner to intermediate. And so that is included in this Loom movement app. But how do I do it? I usually finish a long day of teaching. And then I had this little cute wall built recently with the mountains. It looks like the Colorado mountains to me. And so having a nice simple backdrop. And then I use that for most of my filming. Sometimes I'll film. I have a little studio at home too, because I still do some Zooms. I also had to get over my perfectionistic personality. I always joke that I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so now I just call it, I'm very detail oriented. Yes. But there's times now where I just put it on there and it's not perfect. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I think people really hold back when they feel like it has to be so perfect. Yeah. And so I think starting with just something and then refining as you keep going and keep showing up, then you kind of figure out what's working, what isn't. Then there's different apps that help, at least with Instagram, with the filming. The new thing I'm doing is just using my iPhone. Mm-hmm. For a while, I was setting up a camera and then, taking it from the disk to my computer. And it was taking so long. I'm like, this is brutal. Yeah. So just finding the time to record the workouts and not mess up too much and then upload them. So I think the app has also been a really great way for me to do it because it's an easier process. So I'm also doing live. So every Tuesday at 9:15, I do a 40-minute live mat class. And then that also goes onto the app. So it is hard to find the time to sit down and film and then also teach in the studio. So I think if you just set small goals and like, okay, for my Instagram, it takes me about 7 minutes. Wow. I set up my thing, 7 minutes. The editing I kind of give myself a time limit because it's such a rabbit hole and I don't really want to spend the rest of my life on Instagram or editing my videos. So I try to make it as quick as I can. And I think just trial and error, I have figured out the apps that work. And I just really the other thing I would say is I really try to listen to the audience and what people want. And I'm not using this platform as a means to say, look at what I can do. Look at me. Look at who I am. It's more about, hey, do you want to feel better? Do you want your back to feel better? I struggle with hamstring issues too. How about you? What if we try these exercises? So I'm hoping that's how I come across versus like, it's a Sara Talbert show.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you're online, there is an element of people feel like they need a connection with you, right?
That's great.
Very quickly, you attract the people who, with the energy that you're putting out there into the world, for sure. And so I do think, that you've built that incredible following because of that, right? Because of that, and time again, I think we see that. I see that, as I study this and I observe this about a lot of people in our industry, and it is always the way that those who care about delivering great value, no matter where you're at, you always bring that energy back to you for sure. Fundamentals right there. For sure.
Oh, thank you.
So you've bridged a lot of different kind of parts of a business together. And today you'll still have your hands in all of those different pieces. Mm-hmm. Obviously you're someone who is very driven, who is willing to put in, effort to learn things, to do new things, to challenge yourself. I think that is a certain kind of character that we see is the type that does well generally in business. But upon reflection, now looking back, because we have you've been doing this for a long time, tell me a little bit about how you feel that you have perhaps evolved through the journey in the industry and what all of the different projects that you've undertaken.
I would say I've evolved probably not being so hard on myself.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, it's really hard to move forward. So if I make a mistake, I'm like, oops, look at that. You see it and you move on. I think also I am a forever student. I get very excited when I have lessons and learn something new. So I for sure am not someone to say I know it all and this is the only way to do it. I have my favorite ways to do it, ways I think really work well, but I'll never be the person that says this is the absolute way it has to be done. And I've been exposed to that and it hasn't worked well for me. I think evolving also means just showing up, maybe when you don't feel like it. Sometimes your mood will change. And then especially when you really do feel like it, if you're inspired, really show up and make sure you kind of document that moment. we talked a little bit about my lessons with Sonjay.
Yes.
That really keeps me going. If I didn't have that or take a little bit of time for myself, you could easily get burnt out. There's a lot of stories about being burned out and just like, oh, the same thing over and over. It can feel that way in this job. You show up at 8 and you leave at 4 and you're teaching classical Pilates. And a lot of people are worried about that repetition and the consistency, but really that's what I believe helps you succeed, doing the same things over and over and not having it change too much.
Yeah.
Tell
me a little bit about your practice. You mentioned Sonjay. So
So this is funny. When I was at Greenwood, I would teach, and I think I was just really busy. I had the kids, they were younger. I would teach, and I thought for sure just teaching and saying the words that it was kind of like doing it. But it was not. And so I honestly started filming myself for Instagram. I was like, wow, I look a little different than what I thought I felt like I looked. Yeah. And so I used to actually be embarrassed to film myself and hit the record button. I actually would get nervous and be like, get on the mat and then look at myself. I mean, that was a whole journey too, getting used to. I thought it was kind of like a narcissistic tendency to like, who sits and watches themselves on a video? But I'm way past even worrying about that. And I almost use it too to like, oh, look at your left side, or I just see things in my own body. So I feel like that has, and now I'm remembering what I'm answering, what question I'm answering. What would we?
I was just asking you. It's okay. No, I was asking you about your practice with.
Yeah,
you
so my practice,
you work with Sonjay, and
so I see her 2 days a week. So on Monday we do an equipment class, and then on Tuesday I actually do a lot of exercise on Tuesdays, but I take her mat class. So when I went and saw her, she invited me in on this group, and I'm like, this is awesome. So she sits and watches everybody and gives you your corrections. I always call Sonjay a truth teller. There's just no holding back. And I love it. You can get your feelings hurt sometimes if like someone's telling you exactly what to do, but I love it. So I eat that up. And then I have a couple Zooms where I do it with them. And then I have that mat class that I'm now offering on my app. So I move a lot. I do Pilates probably 4 days a week. And then when I'm filming, it's usually after I'm done and I just get on my mat and just say, where am I going today? Like, what do I feel like doing? And so it's kind of just different kind of movement. And then I do other exercise. I strength train and I also bike. So I do move a lot.
Yeah. You mentioned you're very into cycling as well. And you've been a lifelong mover for sure.
But for a while, I guess what I was saying too was, I like to share in my passion of, teaching isn't the same as doing. And I've always done Pilates, but I wasn't on a really great schedule, and cycling and all that really tightens you up. And one day I was watching myself on an Instagram thing and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really tight. I think I need to up my game. So I always have these moments of truth with myself. Like, Sara, you need to be taught more. You need to be the student. And so I've always gone to the workshops and stuff, but like it's that weekly, daily practice. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I feel like I've made some great changes. So I'm kind of proud of myself there.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that feeling. That's a great feeling to have.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, when you look back, we've talked about the good. Is there moments where you perhaps sort of struggled, or was there a hard time, or was there a moment where you thought, oh, I don't know, am I on the right track? Can you talk a little bit about
for sure.
Those moments?
I think, taking risk, leaving a job of 20 years and opening something that was really a hard time, not knowing if it would work, taking the risk to developing an app. You ask yourself, what is it called when you feel like you're kind of not like a fake person? There's a name for it. What's it called?
Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
The imposter syndrome.
A little bit of that. Yeah. Who doesn't have that? Do I belong on this platform? Is there, do I have I know I do, but you have moments of self-doubt. Yeah. So definitely that can be hard. The schedule's not easy. I start at 6:20 on Tuesdays, and would I like to sleep in? Maybe. Would I, there's a lot of other things, but like I say, being consistent and just showing up is where it's at, and doing the things most people aren't willing to do, I think. So I think the struggle is just that I think there was an article the other day about a doctor wanting to become a Pilates mom, they called it. And I thought, what is that? Right. And not a Pilates instructor, because at first I was thinking that like, hey, I get up early too. But it was this concept of a Pilates mom would be someone that has matching sets, comes in with the coffee and gets all the lessons. And this doctor was feeling slightly, I'm going to use the word jealous, or like, I want to have that schedule. Then the article goes on to how she started carving out more time for herself and doing more Pilates. So she felt more like that. But I think the hard thing can feel like, do I have enough time for myself?
Right. Yeah, for sure. The balance and the juggle. And it's a bit like, we always say balance and we always think it's something that we are trying to attain that is then static, but it's not, right? You're constantly shifting depending upon your, every day of the week is a little different, the way that you're feeling, what you have going on, all of the other hats that you're wearing. And you're constantly shifting that for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about Loom, because it's relatively new to your world.
Yes.
And tell us a little about, you mentioned you wanted to have the app. Tell us a little about what that looks like and what's on the app. What's on the app?
So the app is really cool. I have workouts where you can easily select what you need. So if you just want to do mat, I have it. They're called tags or filters. So you can do 20-minute workout and find it quickly, or 30 to 40-minute workout. I have props so you can search. It's searchable, which I really liked. I didn't feel like my website was searchable enough. It also has a chat, so that I'm starting to kick into gear so I can communicate and create a community of like-minded people. So I'm hoping people start chatting. And then I also love to write, so I'll be continuing to post articles. One of my articles is, because I get this question all the time, what is it like to work with a personal trainer? My husband's very handsome, very cute, and he has a lot of female clients. I wrote an article about that. So I get a lot of different questions, and it may not be like on the mat related, but just industry related. So I like to write. So it has it's called news. It's not a blog. It's called news in the Loom app. And then recipes. So I do love time in the kitchen. I like simple, quick things because we are busy, and healthy food. I turned 50. I'm now 51, and really try to change my diet to help build my muscle, keep my muscle. Being a runner, and when I used to be more of a carbohydrate girl, I would actually eat all carbs. So just things that I've tried through my own life that have worked. I love sharing that information.
Yeah. So what's your favorite meal right now? What's on the menu in the Talbert house?
Don't laugh because this is not protein, but sourdough English muffins. Oh, I've learned to do it. So I have that every morning with protein. But so I have that recipe on, and my girls have learned to make sourdough. And gosh, I go into the regular grocery store in the bread aisle. There's like a smell to me, and I'm like, this smells like preservatives. Like, how can you eat this? When you start making your own bread. So I know that's very trendy right now, but I've always had an English muffin every morning. So I learned to make it myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. And tell me a little bit about what's next for you, or what's coming, or where your focus is, because obviously you're unstoppable. You're not stopping. You're not slowing down.
I'm not stopping. That's true.
At all. So tell us all a little bit about how, the rest of the year plays out for you and what you're focused on.
Well, I'll share a little of the hard fact stuff. I'm working on the app. I have a goal for so many subscribers. I'm still trying to figure out, is that what they're called? Subscribers? On Instagram is friends or followers.
Yeah. What are
those that where I'm like, what are my people called? My friends. Continue to, with my teaching, when we were at that conference in the studio, I don't want to take up too much time, but I had one moment that was kind of like a huge light bulb went on in my head of teaching is really looking and observing before correcting, continuing to do that. And I see corrections right away, but do I want to just start with that, or should I see the movement for a while? Also, I don't know if you remember this lesson, but Miguel had a person who had never done Pilates come on to the reformer. And that was really, I told the story all week when I got back, like, teach Pilates, teach overhead, teach these exercises without the fear they're going to get injured, right? I feel like a lot of instructors hold back. So I've been trying to keep pushing my clients to that next level and not always modifications or assuming they can't do it. Right. Obviously, I take care of the people that really cannot do it, but there's a lot of people that can, and we just need to keep going there. So keeping my, I'm always thinking about, how do I teach? How do I want to show up? What kind of energy do I want to bring into this lesson so they feel really good when they're done? So keeping with that, building the app. And then a dream I have is maybe I would like to do where we go off site and do a Pilates retreat. So I've been talking to some people and I haven't figured it out yet. I know there's different locations and whatnot. And so that is on my radar as a goal, which is a little different than the app, but those are the things I'm working on. Yeah.
I love it all. Such all good things. All good things.
Yes. And also I would just say, like, just putting myself out there and not being afraid or not having, everyone probably has some self-doubt, but not listening to that. Like, well, how would you do the retreat? That's impossible. Instead of saying, well, how am I going to make this happen? Where am I going to go? Who would go? All these questions, but just keep pushing towards that goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, do you think that is something that you have now because you have done it so many times that you're going to figure it out? Or what do you think is the shift that's happened with that kind of mindset? I'm just curious as to your thoughts.
Yeah, I think just reading books I read a lot and read books on business and just also trying to be a little more fearless. I think just like, it does take confidence, and there's times I don't feel confident, but just try, right? You got to try. Like, even my daughter's trying this industry of singer-songwriting. I mean, think about how challenging that's got to be. But if you don't try, no one will know you're there. There's another example I use. I also sell clothing. My mom had a clothing store. So I go with her to Dallas and I sell leggings, just a very small little thing. But it's really fun for me because I love clothing. Yeah. And I got this box of clothing and it sat in my office and I looked at it and I'm like, if I don't ever unpack the box and put it on a hanger and show people the clothing, it will never sell. Right. So I sometimes feel like people get stuck in a box. They have these ideas and these goals and dreams, but they never cut the box open, take the stuff out and put it out there. Right. And so I think that's the hardest part is you have a goal and then what are you going to do to just put it out there? That's where you'll learn what they like or do not like, but you still have to put those clothes on the rack. So that's right. I think that's a good analogy. If you're trying to start something, it's so scary. Like, I think about teachers learning to teach the first words. It's terrifying, of telling people what to do. But if you don't do it a couple of times, it's just never going to happen. So you just have to keep trying, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Sara, this was so wonderful. I loved hearing and getting to know you a little bit more and hearing all about your journey in this industry. And thank you so much for coming on and being so open and honest with your story. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And if folks want to learn a little bit more about Loom and you, where is the best place for them to find you?
That's a great question. So I have a landing page, Loom Movement, and right now we have a Loom 20 discount code going on. So if you wanted to use that discount code, you would sign up on a landing page. So you just need your email and create a password. Then download the app from the Apple Store, and it'll be a little less expensive with that discount code you used on the landing page. And then I think the first 7 days are free before you pay. So you can take a look at what there is to offer. And I'm always telling myself, just keep putting stuff out there. This is new. I'm learning too. And I'll be adding like specific workouts for specific needs the more I hear from my people. So that would be the best way to do it. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to link to all of that in the show notes as well, you guys. So you can always click there. Fantastic. Awesome. Thanks so much, Sara.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay, you too. I hope this was helpful to you as you go about building your boutique fitness studio business. And if you enjoyed this conversation today, I would absolutely love it if you could take a quick minute, go to wherever you're listening to this and rate and review this podcast. It would mean a ton to me, but also help to get this conversation out there to our community so that more teachers and business owners just like you can feel encouraged and supported on their journey in our industry.